A lot of people go to Dubai and they think 0% tax, I'm great.
What are the ramifications of not complying with the rules around corporation tax?
They throw around 10,000 AED penalties, quite a lot out there. Corporation tax is exactly as it says on the tin. I've got a corporate structure set up, I'm going to be taxed. It can actually be freelance. Everyone thinks because there's something called a free zone exemption, they think, oh, I'm automatically exempt if I've got a free zone company. That's not the case. But they don't understand, to get the 0% tax, you still need to look at tax efficiency and tax planning to be able to get there.
Right, so in today's video, we're going to be talking about corporation tax in Dubai in 2024. What is it? How much is it? Who has to pay it? And what do you have to do to comply with the Dubai tax obligations? I have with me today my colleague Brendan. Hey, Brendan.
Hi.
So let's kick off with it straight away, shall we? Big news. We heard last year sometime that Dubai is now introducing taxes, corporation tax, and we hear this figure of 9%. So just to kick off with, what is it? What is the corporation tax and who has to pay it?
Yeah, so corporation tax is now in full swing in Dubai. We are in the first accounting period, so that's going to be taxable for corporation tax. But
which year?
So it's essentially as it's...
Which year? Which year are we talking?
So the first year, in most cases, it depends on your memorandum of articles on the company or when you started trading as a freelancer locally. But the first years, most of them are finishing by calendar years. So most of them are going to finish in December this year, so December 24, and then they'll have 9 months to file after that. So corporation tax is exactly as it says on the tin. Okay, it's company tax that's going to be applicable to any business activity in the UAE. So by that, I mean, it's not just... I've got a corporate structure set up, I'm going to be taxed. It can actually be freelance. So in the UK, we have a perceived, or we have a tax for sole trade, which essentially means we are taxed on our self-employed income. Similar situation in the UAE is now you're taxed for corporation tax under that income.
That's something which really gets most people, isn't it? Because when you hear about corporation tax, people just automatically think, oh, that only applies to corporations, i.e. companies which are set up in the UAE and Dubai under a free zone or in the mainland. But actually, something that we get and which we have discovered that it doesn't just apply to corporates, it applies to freelancers as well. Yeah. So if you are in Dubai at the moment on a freelancer visa, that means that you are also subject to this particular tax and need to comply, because if you don't, there could be serious penalties, right? So just talking about, what are the ramifications of not complying with the rules around corporation tax?
There's obviously a few different, but the blanket at the moment is they throw around 10,000 AED penalties, quite a lot out there. But there's obviously different penalties depending on the violation. And it depends on the situation behind why it was violated. But in most cases, it's up to 10,000 dirhams.
Yeah. Which is quite hefty, right?
That's quite significant, yeah. About
£2,000 penalty for non-compliance. So it's really in everyone's interest to get this right.
It's a lot more than our £150 normally locally. So
exactly. Okay. So right, we're in Dubai. We're doing business in Dubai either through a free zone or as a freelancer. Are there any exemptions available? Does it kick in at the first pound of profit that we're making? Talk us through, what exemptions are available, if any.
We get a common misconception out in Dubai, and I get this a lot that comes from clients, which is everyone thinks because there's something called a free zone exemption, they think, oh, I'm automatically exempt if I've got a free zone company. That's not the case. So when you look at the free zone exemption, which is the number one exemption, is you will have qualifying activities to be able to fit to the criteria of the free zone exemption. In most cases, you won't fit that. Okay, it's mainly manufacturing, financial services, that kind of sectors, which we don't see a lot as clients. So from our side, we don't see as much that we fit the criteria. In most cases, we don't. So when we don't meet the criteria, the question is, am I then taxed at 9%? And the answer is no. There's still two very good systems that they have out there for exemptions at the moment. The second one is if your turnover is below 3 million dirhams per year, which in the UK is probably about £650,000 to £700,000 in that bracket. So if your income,
that's turnover, not profit.
That's turnover, yeah. So if you're below that, then it's still 0%. It's not you're exempt, but it's 0%. So you still got to file and prove it. But the third option that you've got is based on profit. So once you do your turnover minus your expenses, what's your profit that's there? If that's below 375,000 dirhams, then again, you will fall into the 0%. Very key, you have to file still. Okay, you still have to prove you're in the 0% to get there.
So that's 375,000 dirhams.
That is, yeah. So it's about £90,000.
About
So
£90,000.
look at the VAT threshold in the UK, it's around that.
Okay. All right. So the first one is my turnover less than £650,000 ish?
Yeah.
And if it is, then I don't need to pay corporation tax, but I still need to file to make sure that they're aware of my
key point to jump
P&L.
in on there. That's only around till 2026 at the minute.
Okay, so it's temporary.
It's said to be finishing in 2026. We've had nothing to say it isn't. So just be aware that one is going in 2026. If you're going out there now, you need to plan that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And the secondary one is a profit one. So after you've done your accounts, after you've deducted your expenses, if your profit is not more than around £90,000 ish, 375,000 dirhams, then you're exempt. So is anything beyond the 90,000 that's subject to the 90%? Are there any other reliefs available?
And I think when you're looking at that 90,000 or you look at 375,000 dirhams, whatever currency you look at it in, I think you've then got to look at saying, well, you still need you need a good backing system or a good accountant or what advisor in the background that's going to be able to bring down that profit and be able to minimize it and give you the tax efficiency still. A lot of people go to Dubai and they think 0% tax, I'm great, but they don't understand to get the 0% tax, you still need to look at tax efficiency and tax planning to be able to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. And do they have a similar system that we have in the UK? For example, some expenses that are allowable for tax purposes and other expenses that aren't. How kind of evolved is the system there? Is it based upon the UK model or something else?
It's very similar to us. I would actually say it's probably closer to the US model than it is the UK, but it's very similar. Okay, when we look at the international financial reporting standards, it's exactly the same. So when we're looking at, I don't want to go into too much depth, but it's very similar. Okay, it's very similar in the expenses you can claim. It's not as similar to the UK as it is to the US, for example, on stuff like depreciation or how you claim against assets to be able to get some tax relief on that. But in most cases, it's very similar. Yeah, you've just got to look at what's relevant, what's wholly and exclusively for business purposes. Exact same phrase you will hear around the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I guess it makes sense to speak to, someone in the know in terms of what can I put through, and that advice is also going to be relevant for your overseas position. So if you are UK resident, if you're trying to escape the UK taxes, how you put through certain expenses, whether that's a salary or a management charge. I know some people say that you can put through a management charge, but there are some risks associated with that. Other people say you can put through a salary. So again, it's kind of working through what is best for you, what you can and can't put through based upon commerciality and your arm's length principles, right?
I think as a quick tip, I think for people that's out there at the moment, I think you need to look at your business in Dubai has to have commercial reality. So what I mean by that is it has to be able to show it's a trade. It has to have legitimate expenses. It has to show that it stands on its own two legs. Okay, it can't just be you've moved to Dubai, I get all these great benefits from this and I'm just paying myself a salary for it. It's not how it works. Okay, Dubai is like any other country around the world. UAE is like any other country around the world. They adhere to AML regulations. You need to make sure, and you could look at transfer pricing if you get bigger, but it's just guidance for the smaller entities. But you need to make sure you adhere to two key principles, which is arm's length principle. If someone else was to do it, what would the cost be? Okay, is it similar? Is it in the same respect? And then commercial reality, where you say it can stand on its own as a trade. You can see it's a legitimate trade through the turnover expenses and the volume that's being done.
Absolutely. And that again helps you from a UK perspective as well, that you can show to HMRC that, yeah, we've got substance in Dubai, we've got a company, we're actually receiving income here from our customers. We're not just raising invoices to our UK company. We are employing people in Dubai, either freelancers or direct employees, and we've got expenses that are being incurred from the Dubai entity as well to give it that commercial substance, which is going to help you to show to HMRC that you have actually escaped the UK tax net, as it were, and you've got some real economic substance in Dubai. So in terms of moving on, what are the practical realities of filing for corporation tax? What do I need to do? Do I need an accountant out in Dubai? How do I make sure I don't fall foul of the UAE authorities when it comes to my corporation tax and filing requirements?
I think, of course, I would always recommend an advisor. Okay, if you're not an expert in this, there's little things that you could miss out on and then they could cost you thousands. Okay, so I'm always going to say speak to an advisor. Of course I will. But from our side at the moment, you can file through the Emirates tax portal. It's currently changing at the moment. So you're having to now get what's called a UAE pass, which is associated to your Emirates ID. You'll use that to log into the Emirates tax portal. And then the Emirates tax portal, in there's a section where you can file your corporation tax through there. Okay, it's just like VAT out there at the moment, exact same basis. Emirates tax portal, you can log in, you can file through there. But of course, speak to an expert, speak to someone that knows what they're doing to make sure that you're not losing out.
Absolutely. Yeah, just like anyone could file a set of accounts and tax return here in the UK. Generally, you don't. You use an accountant to do so. And we are at Capture Accounting. We are tax agents as well in Dubai. So if that is something of interest, we can certainly help on that front. So just finally to finish off that, what other... I mean, you mentioned the penalty for non-compliance of 10,000 AED. Moving on from that, when do you start needing to have an audit, for example, in the UAE? Are there any kind of turnover thresholds that once you breach, you need to have an audit? What are the rules around the audit in Dubai?
So audit's not like the UK. In the UK, we have these 3 marker points where we look at auditing, okay, and they're quite high, like 10.2 million turnover, and then however many staff, 50 staff, and then we go through all the different models to say tick tick tick, okay, it's large enough to do it. We don't get the small exemption. But in Dubai, it's not like that. Dubai depends on the authority figure that you're operating with, mainly the free zone, if you're with a free zone. Most free zones now, with the introduction of corporation tax, are requiring an audit. That doesn't mean it's a UK audit, okay? A UK audit, we are very strict, and there's a lot that goes into it. It's not the same, if I'm honest, but there's still a large element of reporting needs for this, which means now you need to make sure in the UAE that you've got clear records, you've got financial statements that adhere to international financial reporting standards, and then you've got to make sure that it is audited in most cases. I've got, for example, a couple I've done recently through Maidan Free Zones or wherever, where they have a little note that says if you're asked to provide an audit, you have to give it within 30 days. You doing that still means you need to go and get an audit, still have that financial records and that stamp to say it's been done, so that you're not falling foul of your authorities, because they can revoke trade licenses and close the company.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, definitely. We thought that UK tax authorities were bad, but you don't want to get on the wrong side of UAE tax authorities either.
No, definitely not.
Fantastic. Brilliant. Brendan, that's been really useful. Hopefully you found it useful as well. If you have, then click on the link to subscribe for more like this, and there'll be some videos around here that will be relevant for you to consider if you are thinking about moving to Dubai, establishing your business out there, living out there, and making sure that you are fully compliant. Otherwise, take care, and I'll see you on the next one.